Welcome back. This is another episode of Factual Fitness. We're going to quickly summarize nutrition for muscle growth. First things first, I want you to be very aware of the fact that the way our hormones respond to training and how they affect our muscle growth depends mainly on our nutritional status, not just how many calories you consume. Eating in a caloric surplus will not ensure muscle growth, and it will definitely not ensure optimal muscle growth. Muscle growth, sometimes known as hypertrophy, is the development of stress in the muscle to improve muscle mass, density, shape, and function of muscle cells. This adaptation allows the muscle to meet exercise or function-induced stress, which for many of you will be the demands of your strength sessions through the week. Muscle cells are basically made up of bunches of sticks, basically like you would carry a load of firewood. They are many singular sticks, which then make up a larger cylinder structure like this, which we would call a bundle of filaments composed of something called sarcomeres. Sarcomeres are basically the fundamental unit that allows muscle contraction to occur, and they're composed of two things, myosin and actin. Now, what I want you to be aware of is that all of these proteins within the body are comprised of 20% muscle. Yes, only 20% muscle. The other 80% of muscle is made up of water, phosphates, and minerals, okay? And this is why I started with that very clear message. The nutritional status of your body will dictate how the hormones in your body respond to training, not just how many calories you consume. Muscle growth is further influenced by the type of exercise, nutritional intake, and hormonal status. And the type of exercise and hormonal status influence of nutrition basically depends on how demanding your training is and how much time and efficient you are when recovering. To put it simply, if you eat a lot, train hard, and get lots of recovery, you'll put on muscle. But if you're malnourished, sedentary, and stressed out, you won't put on muscle. And that goes for the same training programs hand in hand. You could be following the hypertrophic pathway to a T, but if you're not looking after your nutritional status, you will not see muscle growth occur. So what do you need to know? Well, studies show us that people who restrict their calories, i.e. their dieting, without also resistance training, lose weight. But it's an even distribution of muscle and fat, so not necessarily what you want. Now, what you'll see here is a chart that shows an experiment over 16 weeks with 25 different women who would be classified as overweight. The experiment compares calorie restriction alone, dieting, with exercise alone, and then compares them both to a calorie restriction and exercise. And as you can see here, at the end of the 16-week period, the diet and exercise group lost the most fat and gained the most muscle. The exercise-only group didn't lose as much scale weight, and they lost a fair amount of fat while only adding a very small amount of muscle. The diet-only group lost scale weight, but not as much fat, and they were the only ones who lost muscle mass overall. Okay, so it's really important that you understand it's a combination of exercise, nutrition, and recovery that dictates your muscle growth, whether you're trying to lose fat percentage at the same time or not. What I also want you to be aware of is one bout of resistance training will stimulate your muscles for a turnover of around 48 hours. That means 48 hours post exercise, you need to have in mind how you're replenishing stores and recovering from that bout of exercise. During this time, if energy intake is adequate and your protein intake represents at least 12 to 15% of your energy intake, muscle growth will occur. And for those of you on an energy restricted diet for fat loss, protein is equally required for muscle recovery and growth, and you're likely to require anywhere from 1.5 to 2 grams of protein for your body weight. And that would be for those of you who are looking for fat loss while maintaining or increasing muscle mass slightly. Those of you looking for significant muscle mass and looking to increase your muscle mass significantly, you want to look to consume anywhere from 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. For example, if you weigh 80 kilos and you've been strength training for a year to 3 years, you might consider going on the approach of 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So you're looking to consume 80 times 2 grams of protein, which would obviously be 160 grams of protein per day. So just to give you a quick summary of what you're looking for with protein in terms of when, why, and how much. Well, we've covered the why in great detail so far. I want to talk about the what. When we're talking about protein sources, the majority of you, your go-to source will be animal products. Lean sources of meats, such as chicken breast, chicken thighs, lean beef mince, even lamb steaks or pork chops can be a really good source of protein. For my veggies and vegans, we're looking at our seeds, legumes, and specifically we're looking at nuts within those legumes. So for those of you who are vegan, you want to maximize your intake of seeds, nuts, and legumes, while also making sure in your diet you have large amounts of Greek yogurt, quinoa, while also paying special attention to the amount of carbs that you take in. When do we want to consume proteins and how? Well, I follow a rule of every 4 hours, you want to consume around 25 to 30% of your daily intake. So if your daily intake is 100 grams of protein, every 4 hours you want to be taking around 25 to 30 grams of protein. Now, for those of you who aren't awake for 15 hours a day, you're going to want to split that down into shorter chunks, and you might end up consuming anywhere from 40 to 45% of your protein intake every 3 to 4 hours to make sure that you take it in. What's really important to note here is that you can never consume on average more than 50 grams of protein per sitting. These sittings fall anywhere from 2 to 4 hours apart in the research, and so you want to minimize your protein intake per portion, but maximize your overall protein intake throughout the day. So some quick tips on protein for muscle growth to finish. You want to make sure that you're maximizing protein away from your main sources. So when you're cooking, think about, could you add an extra source in? At breakfast, we're looking at Greek yogurts and eggs as our primary source of additional protein to our animal sources. At lunch, you may be consuming something quite light, like a salad, but adding in some chia seeds, some pumpkin seeds, some olive oil will add in extra calories as well as extra protein as well. And at dinner time, that's where we're looking to minimize our fat intake. And so looking primarily for lean animal sources in the evening. Beef and chicken are your two primaries. That is your go-to in the evening. What I also want you to be aware of just before I finish is protein intake before bed. Now, for those of you who consume whey protein more than once a day, I always recommend to you that you take your second protein shake an hour to an hour and a half prior to going to bed. This is to maximize protein stores within the body, as well as ensuring you have enough protein within the body at rest for the body to properly start its recovery processes in repairing the damaged muscular structures that you have damaged in that resistance training bout. So this has been a quick overview of factual fitness for nutrition for muscle growth or hypertrophy. If this has been useful, please leave a comment below, even if it's just a big old thumbs up. It really does mean a lot to me. As well, if you have any questions for you specifically in regards to your nutrition blueprint, then please just drop me a message and leave a comment below as well. This has been Factual Fitness, an overview of nutrition for muscular growth.